Just waiting for the stream to initiate. So I may be on right now, I may not. Just waiting for YouTube to let me know that I'm up. So let's see. Okay. So hello everyone. My name is Prod Ch1. I am your instructor for television production. I know some of you may have met me in person, some of you may have not, so that's why I wanted to give you a little introduction. The primary purpose of this class is to give you the basic knowledge and skills for if you decide to go into television production, after you graduate. And also, of course, it'll help you with some of the later courses that are far more hands-on than this class. As far as the lectures go, I'll be posting probably on Mondays and Wednesdays. And for those of you worried about the Friday lab type stuff, usually most of our labs have to do with upcoming equipment exams, either to actually do those exams or you have to demonstrate some type of skill, or just to prepare you and demonstrate how you do that thing that I expect you to be able to perform later on. So for our first equipment exam, we won't be getting close to that until around the time we finish chapter 1. So I don't expect us to finish chapter 1 this week. So that'll give you kind of an idea of when we'll actually meet. And when we do meet, we'll be most likely meeting at the TV studio in the Rust Tech building. So, something else I wanted to mention before we get started is the I use a PowerPoint when I do lectures, and the student version of the PowerPoint is on Blackboard. So let me pull that up. So on Blackboard, if you go to your content section, if you see, is it showing my? So if you go to the content section, it's right above my shoulder. So, and you click on that, then you'll see, okay, there's showing my cursor. So this lecture that I'm doing, and it'll cover even more than what I covered today, but all of chapter 1 is there. So yeah, and it's it has like a fill in the blank type style to it, so you will still need to listen to the videos in order to know some key things. So anyway, that's where you can also have a copy. You can print it out in note version and an outline version, or just keep it on your phone and maybe edit to fill in the blanks. However you want to do that, that's fine by me. So let's go ahead and get to the lecture. Okay. So, excuse me. That's not the beginning. Okay. So, and this will be going over just signal flow of how images go from cameras to what you see at home, a lot of the popular equipment with video production, and just some thoughts and theories when taking the first step in creating a project. So, first up, the 3 production phases. That's pre-production, production, and post-production. So no matter what you're doing, whether it's something where it just is live and then it's done, or whether you do something and you have multiple takes and you're combining takes and editing out the bad stuff, you still have these 3 phases. So yeah, news programs, documentaries, all of them have, all video production has these 3 phases. You're not gonna get around it. You're not just gonna, I don't know, walk up and just do something. So pre-production, all the stuff that happens before you actually press record. So that may include scouting a location, trying to find out where you want to shoot something, running cables. So if you need a microphone, or need to have somebody mic'd, you may have to run an audio cable to where they're going to be and have a microphone set up there. Power cables, HDMI cables, or whatever type of video cables. You have to think about that. Lighting, that's also part of pre-production. So even what I'm doing right now, it's not a lot, but I still have, I'm using light from a window and an extra light just to, even that, even something that's, may seem simple as this takes a little bit of pre-production. Yep, I got my mic on. Production, when you're actually recording, when the event is actually happening. So the most obvious version of this is when you see anything live, a nightly newscast, or maybe the Super Bowl. So those things are when you're actually on and people are performing or whatever. Post-production usually consists of editing, or maybe fixing some audio, or maybe adjusting the lighting, some things where something wasn't quite right and you adjust it to make it better, or you cut out some parts to make things go faster, like award shows. I think maybe award shows are about 2 hours long, but in reality they're even longer than that. So yeah, post-production can really help out in a lot of ways. And also, doing post-production usually takes longer than the actual production. So let's say a 30-second commercial, okay? When you actually shoot it, it may take, who knows, let's just say an hour to shoot, okay? You're still gonna spend way more than an hour actually editing the footage. So it's or if you're doing a multi-camera shoot where you're shooting something from multiple angles and switching from one angle to the other, maybe going back in post-production and editing which angle you want, that's gonna take it's gonna take way longer than it took to actually shoot the event. Anyway, I don't want to bog you down in too much details. So let's get to some theories. So the effect cause model. What this does is it helps you streamline your decision-making process when working on a project. So what it does is it goes from the basic idea of what you want to what you want the end result on your viewer to be. What's the lasting impression, or maybe the action that you want them to take after they've seen whatever it is that you're doing. Maybe it's save the environment, maybe it's, I don't know, vaccinate your kids, I don't know. So let's see, basic idea, desired effect on the viewer, and everything, say maybe it's just the idea of an anti-smoking ad. Every part of that project feeds toward that idea of no smoking. So having that goal of what you do makes it a lot easier in making your choices. So an example of that, or example that I used to use, was, say you're going to class, okay? You know that your end goal is to go to class, and that's what you're going to do, on some particular day and time. Now, if someone asks you, hey, do you want to go to this place and hang out during the time that you need to be, in class, you're going to say, no, thank you. So it's not even going to be a debate. Let's say you know that you're going to class, so that automatically eliminates maybe some things that some clothing options. So you may not, go in your pajamas, or maybe say you're going to a physical education class. You're not going to wear, your high school prom tux or ball gown when you're going to a physical education class, whether it's racquetball, I don't know, baseball, basketball, whatever. So because you know what that end goal is, there's certain decisions that just, automatically are outside of that trajectory. So if you're going to, going in college, registered in college, going to classes, and somehow you get a call from an Army recruiter and says, hey, we want you to join the military today, and we'll have you in basic training in 2 days. Well, if your goal is, okay, nope, I'm going to class, degree, blah, 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 then you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll talk to you in a few years, but right now, this is the path that I'm on. So anyway, having that goal reduces the choices that you make. It makes things a whole lot easier. So, yeah, I was just thinking, like me, I have kids. Sometimes I may be invited to do something, and I'm like, no, I gotta make sure the kids are taken care of, or all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it's just like an automatic no. So, so desire is to create a process message. That message is what's actually perceived by the viewer through watching the program or the message or whatever. So your medium requirements, what do you need? Do you need people? Do you need a certain specific place in order to shoot this? Do you need to block off a street? Or what kind of equipment do you need? So do you need, maybe it's something that has a video that has like a 360 view or something. Well, then you may need that particular type of camera. Or maybe you're trying to get audio of multiple people, but everybody can't be wearing mics, or the mics can't be seen. You may have to use a different type of microphone that can still pick them up well. So this is a visual representation of what I'm talking about. So you have your idea. Your idea might be, it may just be general, like, oh, let's just do something about how smoking is bad, okay? That's very, very vague. Or, smoking is, let's just do a negative smoking ad. That's very, very broad. Now, if you want, your defined process message would be something like, if you smoke, it'll mess up your throat or your speaking ability, okay? So when you go through the production phase, this is when you're actually, deciding what shots you're going to get, or maybe who you're going to cast, which goes into medium requirements, people. How are you going to do this? Are you going to use pictures? Also, say it's a commercial. So commercials, there's certain things that you can't get around, like the typical commercial is 30 seconds. So if you make your commercial, 2.5 minutes, it's not going to be able to play anywhere. So not on television, okay? Maybe some type of online ad or something like that. But on television, channel 4, 7, 11, whatever, Fox, CBS, no. So, so maybe the content, if it's something, an anti-smoking ad, you're not going to be showing, rainbows and, water slides or something. That may be off topic. So let's just say you have this, you pick your shots and, whatever, and you come up with a commercial. Your actual process message, excuse me, I dropped something. Your actual process message is the effect that it has on the audience. So the actual process message and the defined process message may not be the same. So the defined process message is the desired effect. Now the actual process message is what they actually get from it. So let's just say in this smoking, anti-smoking commercial, you have maybe somebody, smoking a cigarette outdoors in, some back alley street area. and they're smoking, and then like I don't know, two rough looking people walk up to the person, and the guy like waves them off or something while holding their cigarette or taking some puffs of smoke or something like that. Okay, so in an anti-smoking commercial, the actual process message of this might be, oh man, if I smoke, then I'll look macho. I'll look like a tough person, and that's not the anti smoking image that you want. So maybe something where have someone who's speaking, whose voice has gotten raspy, and maybe later footage of them before when they were some very famous singer. Maybe that would help get to the desired effect on the target audience of, okay, if you smoke, it'll mess up your voice. Okay, so anyway, that's kind of the idea. So it's kind of like, I think I've heard this phrase, begin with the end in mind. So it's something like that. So that was a lot of off-the-cuff examples. So anyway, this is still going in on the same topic. Having that angle will streamline your decisions. So, and having a specific angle, there's lots of different angles that you can portray a particular event, activity, message. You could take a picture of something and have, say, different captions. So, which can change the story completely. So, for example, let's take this. There's a story. An event happens. Say a dog bites a mail carrier, mailman, mail person. So, now, say it makes the news for some reason. Well, guess what? It can still have different angles, objectives or things that want to be explored through this event. So one could be rising crime. So maybe this was a lot of people, this guy got bit, and it was just a matter of time because so many people use dogs to protect their homes, their areas, their property. So because the crime has gotten so bad, this is why, I don't know, this person had 4 dogs in their yard, neighborhood, area, land, property, whatever. So another way of looking at this, instead of, okay, why were all these dogs there? Because of rising crime. Another one could be, why did this happen? Well, this dog was not on a leash, okay? Maybe the dog was somewhere that, I don't know, that's in public, and I don't know what. So anyway, something that could be explored is like, okay, that mail carrier getting bitten could just be the today hook or the thing that leads into, okay, it happened in this particular area. Usually, even outside of the person's fence, dog's supposed to be on a leash. So anyway, because of this leash law or lack of leash laws, this guy got bit, and going into detail about that. So another one might be this particular animal. Maybe the animal really did, a number on this mail carrier. So something that you may want to explore with this one is, what were the wounds? So maybe you want to definitely show some pictures of where they were bitten, or maybe the history of that particular breed of dog. This dog was originally used to tackle horses or something. So just showing that, okay, this dog has a violent history of hurting bigger mammals. So all that goes into, or maybe just the anatomy of how many pounds of pressure that animal can create in a bite. All that goes into animals too dangerous for society. So Let's see. Oh, the reason why I had the reality television was sometimes in reality television, you've heard this before, where they made me out to be the bad guy. And sometimes that does happen. They show maybe one argument that this person has, but all the other time they're, baking pies for everybody and, doing their chores and all this other stuff. But if, they focus on maybe 2 times where the person said something that wasn't nice, then that's the angle that, that occurs. Also, maybe sometimes they, can interview a bunch of people about one particular thing or about one particular person, and then it just seems like, oh, this person is the best or the worst or whatever. Don't think we need to go over that again. So, some of the people who work in television production. Excuse me. So when it says non-technical production personnel, but these are people who work in television production, but they don't have jobs where they are actually holding a camera or running cables to cameras or setting up lights, but they still are an integral part of it. So the executive producer, so like say in news, the executive producer, they're over several news shows. So say there's some big event that's happening, they're organizing, okay, in the 6 o'clock we'll cover it, or in the 5 o'clock news we'll make sure to highlight these particular elements of this event, and then the 6 o'clock we'll have this other coverage, a different view of this same type of event, but they make sure that neither newscast steps on each other's toes. So yeah, they're over more than say one show or one aspect of it. Yep, budget. Yeah, how much we want to spend on something, or who do we want to hire, or who are we just going to have go, take care of this particular thing, which, or maybe which, we've got this interview with this person, maybe we want to save it for this particular show instead of the other one. So now with producers, and the reason why sometimes I use a lot of newscast analogies is because that was my background. Before I came to work at UAPB, I was a news producer. So I actually did this job and some other jobs. So the producers say in news is over one production, so over one news show. So over one 30-minute news show. If their newscast is 30 minutes. So morning show producers deal with their shows last hours. So anyway, yeah, they're over personnel, like who does what. Also coordinating the technical and non-technical elements. What does that mean? That means that, okay, say a script is written, okay, and a way that script could be better understood is, okay, we need a graphic, an over-the-shoulder graphic that shows a picture of something and has some words. So the non-technical is this script, I wrote it or whatever, or maybe wrote a short promo for some story coming up. So that'd be the non-technical, would be the words. Now the technical would be the graphic that shows at the bottom of the screen, or the OTS, over-the-shoulder graphic that appears over someone's shoulder, or maybe just the interview that got arranged. So it coordinates kind of like the script writing plus, okay, what do we need to make this look even better? How do I get this idea, this concept to flesh out to look the way I want it to look? So and to show up in the to show up exactly when I need to show up in the show. So and producers write stories. So field producers. So what the difference between a producer and a field producer, and also producers, I didn't put that on there, but they also organize stories and decide how certain things get portrayed in, say, a show. A field producer, they're, I don't know if you've ever seen like someone, maybe there's like a state fair or some big event where they just have coverage and they go back to this particular location time after time after time during a show. Well, the field producer is there to also give like time cues to the reporter to let them know where they are in the show and how close they are to their next segment where they'll have to do something else. Also, it helps. They help with maybe having interviews with various people who are on the scene. So, say it's a fair. Well, maybe an interview with the mayor. Maybe another interview with some local celebrity. Maybe an interview with some carnival worker or rodeo person. So it arranges, okay, when are those people going to show up? And also letting the reporter know, okay, in 15 minutes we need to have this other thing ready. So they kind of make sure that outside of the studio where you don't have as much technology and people in your ear, that everything still goes according to plan. The director. So director, depending on the type of production. So in television, a lot of times, well, in news, the director is over deciding which cameras show what and telling people when to pop up graphics and all that kind of stuff. But say if it's for a television commercial, which is still television, but it's a commercial, then a lot of what they do is over talent. So let's see what else. Oh, floor manager. So they're the person who's on the studio floor, and they sometimes, like, say if there's an interview guest, they'll tell them, okay, kind of walk them through, okay, you're going to wait till this particular segment, and after this, then you're going to sit here, and, you know, Joe will be the one asking you the questions. So it kind of helps with that. Also giving cues to the talent. So that'll be, say, before a show comes back from a commercial break, what they do is they have someone giving time cues to let them know that, okay, we're 1 minute out, or 1 minute till we come back from commercial. So 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15, 10, 5. So they let the talent know so that they aren't caught off guard. Let's see. Or say there's an interview and they'll give cues to the talent about how much time they have left. So they may be wearing something in their ear, but maybe they don't want to wear something in their ear because that happens. Then they'll just have someone flashing up a 1 or 2 or different symbols for time cues. Supervising floor personnel, just making sure that whoever's operating a camera. Cameras also have camera operators also have to hit marks, at least in bigger productions. Sometimes the camera has to be at this particular place at this particular time, shooting this particular shot. So floor manager can help make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. Floor person, floor crew. That's kind of like an entry-level position. I remember my first job was a production assistant, and one of the things that I did was, it was kind of like camera operator / floor manager / all this stuff. So setting up the studio, the set, that is part of the job. Cue cards, that's a really old thing, maybe for commercials, but in news you've got a teleprompter, so yeah, you're not using cue cards. Grip. What that means is running. Well, it's not running the cables. It's just making sure that the cables don't get caught up, so that way people may trip over them. So, like when you watch, say, the NFL, or some other sport where there's a sideline camera. That sideline camera isn't transmitting these images wirelessly. Okay, a wired connection is always going to be better than a wireless connection. So it's just usually more stable, and there's less likely to have interference. It's, as long as that cable is plugged in and that cable hasn't been beaten and manipulated and has shorts in it, then it's going to be faster 99% of the time. So anyway, because of this, there's cables that people can trip over. Now, what a grip does, especially the camera operator or the camera person, so you basically have someone following behind, organizing the cables that way. It stays out of the way of that camera person or other people who may possibly step on that cable. So it's there's a lot of cords and cables when it comes to TV production, and we'll get to some of those cables later on. Not this chapter, though. Okay. Chief engineer. What a chief engineer. Oh, and it may seem like a lot, but once if you're actually working in television, these jobs it's not as, I don't know, difficult and overbearing. It's like, oh man, this is a lot. It's just, it's pretty natural. So chief engineer, think of like technical support, and think of the person who is the king or queen of technical support. That's the chief engineer. So usually like computer updates, let's say cameras, something's wrong with the camera, you probably have an engineer there that can work on it. So the chief engineer is the person over that. Also, they're over transmission. Transmission is vital. The reason why transmission is vital is because, say somebody pays for a commercial. But for some reason the channel goes down. Okay, it's not doing anything over cable, over air. Basically nobody's seeing anything. Well, guess what? People paid for that commercial time. So what happens is if that commercial doesn't air, even because of a transmission error, maybe the satellite went out or whatever, then guess what? They have to be reimbursed that commercial time. So that means they take a time that wasn't sold and they give to people who already paid for time, which basically cuts into the amount of money that you can make. So yeah, transmission is important. Also, if your channel goes out while there's something really important, then I don't know, guess what? People turn to another channel. They turn to that other channel and they realize, oh, I kind of like what they're doing here. And then next thing you know, you've lost viewers. So yeah, keeping your channel on is very, very important. Let's see. Oh, technical director. So depending on the size of the TV station, sometimes the technical director and the director are the same person. Sometimes there's two different people. So technical director is the person who's operating the switcher. It's a device where you decide which camera that people see, some particular angle. So you may have 3 different cameras showing some type of event, and the director is the one to decide, okay, I want camera 1 to be on air, to be showing this image, not from the angle of camera 3, for example. Camera operators operate cameras. They're usually I think that's kind of self-explanatory. The person holding the camera is usually the camera operator. Now there's audio technician and engineer. Usually what they're doing is they're the person who works the soundboard. So they just typically mute people. Before any type of show, broadcast, whatever, they check audio levels. They have somebody do a sound check to make sure that when they speak, their audio isn't just too loud and too loud to where it kind of like gets distorted, and make sure it's not so low that people can't hear. So they deal with that. They also may have music cues set up and ready to go. Maybe some intro music before a show. What else? Also, maybe this intro video that plays, once it fades fades to whatever the first shot of the show is, they may have adjusted to where the music, they fade out the music themselves or whatever. Anyway, they typically work a soundboard. So, and also, of course, like I said, muting people. So that's also a very important job because, say during the weather segment, the sportscaster person may be, done or waiting, and they may be talking to the anchor that's next to them. Now, if their mic isn't muted, then guess what? You hear that over the air. Or sometimes people will step away from the set, go to the bathroom, go wherever, and if they're using a wireless mic and it's not muted, then you may hear something that people don't want to hear. So, video editor, they actually edit video, and yes, that is a job where all you do is just edit other people's footage that they've shot. Character generator operator. Excuse me. So, where was I? Oh, so in some stations, the character generator operator and the digital graphic artist, they're the same person in some cases, depending on the size of the market. What this person does is they're the one who punches up the graphics during the newscast. Okay. Now, the digital graphic artist is the person who creates those graphics. So, you see how those two jobs kind of work together, because sometimes you make the graphics and then you sit in on the show and you call up the graphics when it's time for people to see full screens that give a who, what, when, where, why of a particular event that's happening. So yeah, let's see. Just want to check something real quick. Oh, I lost it. 12. Let's get this back up. Okay. So where was I? Okay. Yeah. So, and they're news production personnel, news director. They're over all news operations. What does that mean? At TV stations, or at least at news TV stations, there's usually three departments. There's sales, there's promotions, there's sales, promotions, I guess engineering, and then news. Okay, so sales are the people who basically sell the ads. So they call people up and basically say, hey, 30-second commercial for this particular channel. Yeah. Then there's traffic. Well, anyway. Where was I? So promotions, they're the ones who usually when some type of big event happens, within about 2 days you'll be like, oh, we were there when the storm hit or whatever. And they basically promote something. They promote what they did. So when this happened, we were there. When such and such happened, we were there to give the news to you first. Anyway, that type of stuff. So anyway, but in the news department, so that's the anchors, the reporters, the weather guy, the sportscaster, the producer. All those people work for the news director. That's the person over that department. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so they're even higher than the executive producer. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else I wanted to say about that? No, they're the boss of the news department. Producer talked a little bit about this. Place the stories in newscasts, writes. Works with the technical people. They're kind of like the bridge between the say the talent and the script and all the technical stuff. Yeah, write scripts. Assignment editor. Now, what this person does, excuse me. Once it's decided, hey, today we're going to cover this story and that story and other stuff that's happening, in the area today, the assignment editor almost might want to be more like assignment coordinator. What this person does is they find out, okay, this person is over on that side of town and there's another event that's happening over there in a few minutes. Best thing to do would be to have that person who's already near that area cover it, rather than send out a separate, send out another photog and reporter to cover that. So they have an idea of all the stuff that's going on, all the moving pieces of that day, and how can we get this covered using, say, the least amount of people, or without wasting, or or being very conservative with how much time we spend, say, in traveling or whatever. So they know all the stuff that's going on, and they say, okay, well, unless this very particular thing, like, okay, I want this person covering this because, I don't know, maybe it's a sports thing and this is our sports person. So they basically just kind of like utilizing your people, their time and where they are located to, the best of, the most efficient way. Anchors, I think you know what that is. They're the person you see on the news and they read the stories. Reporter, I think you know what that is, but they go out and interview people and do news packages. Video journalist is another name for, is basically a reporter who shoots and edits their own footage. So over the years, they keep coming up with new names for these. I believe that the most recent ones are multimedia journalist or backpack reporter. Also, an old name for that was one man band. It's just basically a reporter who can go out and shoot their own stuff. They don't really have to have anybody else with them to go out and cover a story. So, videographer is also known as a photog. That's the person who usually goes out with the reporter, and when the reporter does a stand-up where they're kind of like doing like an introduction to a story, then the videographer is the one who's holding the camera. Or also maybe while a reporter is going around talking to people, trying to wrangle interviews or interviewees, the photog is also maybe getting footage of different things that are pertinent to the story. So, video editor, they edit video. Let's see. So, 5 more minutes. So with the technical production systems, how does all this stuff work? So this diagram right here, it just basically goes over how do we get an image, that's shot by a camera in a TV studio, all the way to your home, your house, wherever. So this is me talking through it. So you have the camera, all right, lens and viewfinders and all that kind of stuff. So it goes through the CCU, and yes, this will be on the test. So it goes through the CCU. Now that stands for Charged Coupled Unit. Basically what it does is it kind of like adjusts like the brightness, contrast, kind of like little settings that you have on your TV to adjust the image. The reason why you have the camera control unit, and it's a separate device from the actual camera, is because you don't want, say you've got 3 cameras and you don't want them to all have the brightness or the color or the colors being off. So you adjust all of them so that they all have, all of their images look the same. So their image goes through the CCU to make sure it's, make sure that camera 1 and camera 2, make sure their colors look right, so that one doesn't look bluish and one looks reddish or whatever. So that image goes to a preview monitor in the control room. So the preview monitor is where the director or technical director is looking at a bunch of different screens. So I've got this image, this image, this image, and this image, and I get to decide which one do I want to take. So those images that you have the option of popping up so that everyone else in the world who's watching this, this show can see, it comes from the preview monitor. So images come from the preview monitor. Also, This right here, they call video playback. It's basically like a VCR or some type of digital video player. So sometimes when there's a news package, they already have it queued up, or they are in some type of way. It could be a digital thing where they just have like a file loaded, or it may be an actual tape depending on the station. So anyhow, they have that queued up, and usually most stations have more than one of these, but it's queued up to that particular video, and that's also maybe in, I don't know, preview monitor 4 or something, or they may call it like video preview monitor. So that's something that's already pre-recorded, and all you have to do is just, you know, press play when it's time to press that. Now it may have video, which will lead it. Well, it will have video, which leads it through the switcher, and it may have audio that has to be controlled through the soundboard. So this is the soundboard, or audio console line out. But you know, at some point I will have you labeling the things on this diagram, and you know, I'll accept soundboard. So microphone 1, microphone 2. So in excuse me, these type of microphones are not what, say, an anchor would use, or really probably not even a talk show host. It's a stick mic. That's something you would tend to use out in the field, or maybe if you're a singer. But if you're the host or something, usually you're mic'd. You're wearing something like this. So but for the purpose of this diagram, it looks like, you know, these type of stick mics. So that audio that, you know, from the anchor, it'll be more like a, you know, they call it a lavalier mic, or you might say just some type of clip-on mic. It goes into your soundboard. So just like the audio from that you know, VCR or videotape player or whatever, also goes through the soundboard. And one thing that the soundboard and the switcher have in common is that they both select, okay, I want this particular sound or this particular image to pass through, and so that people at home can see it. So where you see video monitor camera 1 up here, so there's other video options, right? You see these other two? Now with this, excuse me, you select, okay, which one do I want people to see? Okay, I want people to see this one, so that one's selected, and that's what gets seen. That's what passes through. Okay, now maybe with mic 1 and mic 2, maybe we want to hear the audio from mic 2, and that's the only one that actually comes out. So in the control room, you actually do get to see which image and hear which image is going out for people to hear at home. And yes, most the video recorder, yeah, most places do have a copy of their newscasts. So whether they do it in house or they have a company that you know, logs all their footage. And from there it goes to the transmitter, which, you know, the chief engineer is, you know, responsible for making sure it keeps working. And it goes, you know, over the airways if you're using, you know, what they call it, off air or on air. Anyway, if you're using like some type of receiver to receive, you know, wireless signals from. Anyway, so, and that's how, you know, it goes from the camera, you know, through the control room all the way to, you know, your home, at least in this particular method. Oh, well, this will be our last slide for the day, but these next up were a couple of visual representations of these things I was telling you about with that expanded television system. So these little monitors, these little pictures right here, represent preview monitors. So these are all video sources that someone can say, okay, I want to pop this one up or that one up or whatever. Now, if you notice, like say this image right here is in one of the preview monitor, is in one of the possible preview monitors. So you can put that up here. This is called like preview and program. What that generally means is that this is the image that's like in queue to be popped up. So in a way, it's selected, but it's not on air for everybody else to see just yet. So from all these options, you know, this is what was picked. So this right here is usually for calling up graphics. This looks like the soundboard. So I would just assume this is maybe where the director, who's like deciding which cameras, you know, their images go, you know, on air. I believe that's where that is. All right. So yeah. I guess I'll go. This is just another view of that. So even though this is a lot older and older technology, there's still some universal things like, you know, smaller images. They get decided that, okay, this is the image that we want to use. So, and this was, I believe, this was for this is a machine for graphics from way back when. But it's still, you know, some of the things just still stay the same. So that'll be it for today. We'll go back to the, we'll start with the field production systems next time. And yeah, that's pretty much it for now. So I'll go ahead and stop this. And oh, remember that in the content section on Blackboard, that's where you can, you know, also get the handout for this particular lecture. So anyway,